G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Welcome to my personal fire map. As you can see, it's set up for manual surveying using magnetic north, and we are currently right here. Shown in red are the 36 burn perimeters which I conducted in 2014. Slightly faded text, but anyway, it worked out to being 8.46 acres all told. And I started on the 4th of June, whereas this year, first burn was on the 19th of September. Should have been around about the 15th of August, but at that point in time I couldn't get a burn permit because COVID restrictions said they suspended the writing of burn permits. Anyway, first burn this year was this roughly 500 square metre area, and that took me 3.5 litres of kerosene and 125 mils of two-stroke fuel in the leaf blower. Also 40 litres of wet line. And that would be pretty much this line along here, seen from the other side, coming up to about here and then running across. The reason it took as much fuel as it did was attempting to get lightly grassed and greenish areas to burn. Down to here, this stuff just didn't want to burn, and then came out and used a wheel track and a wet line to anchor it. So that was the drip torch first solo. 500 of the square metres. Then, night before last, I did this 500 square metres of blady grass. And in this particular instance, I lit the drip torch out there in the middle, so there was an expanding circle of fire there, drawing air in. The sea breeze kicked in slightly before I expected it, so as I was coming down here with a drip torch and a leaf blower, because I didn't quite have enough water to put a wet line onto this stuff, so that was leaf blower policed. By the time I went to light along here where there was a wet line, there was a slight easterly breeze which made it just a little bit exciting. And because blady grass burns a whole lot better than this stuff like that, whereas it was 3.5 litres of kerosene for 500 square metres over there, here it was 1.5 litres of kerosene. And yes, this is worth pointing out. That's what results when you've got a wet line on the vegetation. The fire is looming up against the wet line, and then you stand over here and use a leaf blower to blow away from the wet line, and you actually get all the way down to bare mineral earth in places where the fire is considering the idea of making an escape. This was quite intense. Right across that area there was a line of flame working its way up, 17 metres across, 2 metres high. If you assume that the actual peak combustion depth was, a metre back from the leading edge, 2 metres on top of 17 square metres, that's 17,000 horsepower worth of energy release and radiant heat and stuff. So it was making its own little weather and pulling in tornadoes. And it went for half an hour. Quite a good little fire. Very economical at $2.20 a litre for the kerosene. By contrast, over here, last night's burn, lit from here, was allowed to burn up there on its own, and then used a lot of drip torch fuel cleaning it up. Lighting up along here with no wet line because this is just so green, to a wet line commencing along here. So I got that bottom corner alight. Again, very slight easterly breeze kicked in. So then lighting up here against the wet line, once again 40 litres of wet line. Seems to be enough to contain the perimeter on 3 sides of a 500 square metre fire. But this, as you can see, I've been kerosene grilling green vegetation to try and get a bit of a neat, clean effect. This took 4.5 litres, like $9.87 worth of kerosene. It brings me to a bit of a point about the mighty $270 drip torch. If you're lighting up something like blady grass that's guaranteed to burn, and you can get 40 or 50 metres of perimeter to the litre, and you can light a 200 metre perimeter, then if you've got a black spot to burn down onto, you could burn 5,000 square metres in one go rather than 500 square metres in one go. But if you're on tussock grass, sparse, on the edge of the evening, and you've got to burn at exactly the right time, otherwise wind will take control of the fire and put it somewhere else. Yeah, 500 square metres for 4.5 litres of fuel if you're trying to get good coverage on part wet ground. My old system, where I use 1.25 litre drink bottles, polycarbonate bottles, full of drip torch fuel, sump oil and petrol, 1 to 4 mix. With all of the bottles had a lid, and I had one spare lid with a hot nail hole through the lid so I could use it like a water pistol. And I had a flame holder on the end of a piece of fence wire. Flame holder was made of a piece of steel wool. I've been able to do really quite substantial burns because I've been able to put plastic bottles of drip torch fuel along the edge of a wet line that might be 120 litres instead of 40 litres, and I can light up and just go from drip torch to drip torch to drip torch to drip torch, whereas with the proper machine I can only do that or that, or for example that, which was last night. So 1, 2, 3 nights It's going to be quite a while before I get enough of this stuff done, and how I'm going to go over there doing big burns, I'm not entirely sure. I may have to go back to the old-fashioned method using plastic bottles. So anyway, we'll call that 600 square metres for fire number 3. And yeah, that's just one of the things that a hillbilly gets to do. Not quite first thing in the morning, but before you can get on with anything else in the day, you have to go out and check the burn, and you might as well map the bloody thing while you're at it, eh? Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Isn't life simple? Being a bucolic minimalist hillbilly in the regrowth forest on the endangered species sanctuary. Ciao.